Welcome to Bite at a Time Books, where we read you your favorite classics one bite at a time. My name is Bree Carlile, and I love to read and wanted to share my passion with listeners like you. You can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. You'll also find our new t-shirts in the shop, including podcast shirts and quote shirts from your favorite classic novels. Be sure to follow my show on your favorite podcast platform so you get all the new episodes. We're part of the Bite at a Time Books Productions Network. If you'd also like to hear what inspired your favorite classic author to write their novels, and what was going on in the world at the time, check out the Bite at a Time Books Behind the Story podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Today we'll be continuing Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Chapter 5. Originality of Paris. During the last 2 years, as we have said, Paris had witnessed more than one insurrection. Nothing is, generally, more singularly calm than the physiognomy of Paris during an uprising beyond the bounds of the rebellious quarters. Paris very speedily accustoms herself to anything. It is only a riot. And Paris has so many affairs on hand that she does not put herself out for so small a matter. These colossal cities alone can offer such spectacles. These immense enclosures alone can contain at the same time civil war and an odd and indescribable tranquility. Ordinarily, when an insurrection commences, when the shopkeeper hears the drum, the call to arms, the general alarm, he contents himself with the remark, "There appears to be a squabble in the Rue Saint-Martin," or in the Faubourg Saint-Antoine. Often he adds carelessly, or somewhere in that direction. Later on, when the heart-rending and mournful hubbub of musketry and firing by platoons becomes audible, the shopkeeper says, "It's getting hot. Hello, it's getting hot." A moment later, the riot approaches and gains in force. He shuts up his shop precipitately, hastily dons his uniform. That is to say, he places his merchandise in safety and risks his own person. Men fire in a square, in a passage, in a blind alley. They take and retake the barricade. Blood flows. The grape shot riddles the fronts of the houses. The balls kill people in their beds. Corpses encumber the streets. A few streets away, the shock of billiard balls can be heard in the cafes. The theaters open their doors and present vaudevilles. The curious laugh and chat a couple of paces distant from these streets filled with war. Hackney carriages go their way. Passers-by are going to a dinner somewhere in town, sometimes in the very quarter where the fighting is going on. In 1831, a fusillade was stopped to allow a wedding party to pass. At the time of the insurrection of 1839, in the Rue Saint-Martin, a little, infirm old man pushing a hand-cart, surmounted by a tricolored rag in which he had carafes filled with some sort of liquid, went and came from barricade to troops and from troops to the barricade, offering his glasses of cocoa impartially, now to the government, now to anarchy. Nothing can be stranger. And this is the peculiar character of uprisings in Paris which cannot be found in any other capital. To this end, 2 things are requisite: the size of Paris and its gaiety. The city of Voltaire and Napoleon is necessary. On this occasion, however, in the resort to arms of June 5, 1832, the great city felt something which was perhaps stronger than itself. It was afraid. Closed doors, windows, and shutters were to be seen everywhere, in the most distant and most disinterested quarters. The courageous took to arms, the poltroons hid. The busy and heedless passerby disappeared. Many streets were empty at 4 o'clock in the morning. Alarming details were hawked about. Fatal news was disseminated. That they were masters of the bank. That there were 600 of them in the cloister of St. Mary alone, entrenched and embattled in the church. That the line was not to be depended on. That the Armand Carrel had been to see Marshal Clausel, and that the Marshal had said, "Get a regiment first." That Lafayette was ill, but that he had said to them nevertheless, "I am with you. I will follow you wherever there is room for a chair." That one must be on one's guard. That at night there would be people pillaging isolated dwellings in the deserted corners of Paris. There, the imagination of the police that Anne Radcliffe mixed up with the government was recognizable. That a battery had been established in the Rue Aubry-le-Boucher, that Lobau and Bugeaud were putting their heads together, and that at midnight, or at daybreak at latest, 4 columns would march simultaneously on the center of the uprising. The first coming from the Bastille, the second from the Porte Saint-Martin, the third from the Grave, the fourth from the Halles, that perhaps also the troops would evacuate Paris and withdraw to the Camp de Mars, that no one knew what would happen, but that this time it certainly was serious. People busied themselves over Marshal Soult's hesitations. Why did he not attack at once? It is certain that he was profoundly absorbed. The old lion seemed to scent an unknown monster in that gloom. Evening came. The theaters did not open. The patrols circulated with an air of irritation. Passers-by were searched. Suspicious persons were arrested. By 9 o'clock, more than 800 persons had been arrested. The prefecture of police was encumbered with them. So was the conciergerie. So was La Force. At the conciergerie in particular, the long vault which is called the Rue de Paris was littered with trusses of straw upon which lay a heap of prisoners, whom the man of Lyons, Lagrange, harangued valiantly. All that straw, rustled by all these men, produced the sound of a heavy shower. Elsewhere, prisoners slept in the open air in the meadows, piled on top of each other. Anxiety reigned everywhere, and a certain tremor, which was not habitual with Paris. People barricaded themselves in their houses. Wives and mothers were uneasy. Nothing was to be heard but this. "Ah, my God, he has not come home." There was hardly even the distant rumble of a vehicle to be heard. People listened on their thresholds to the rumors, the shouts, the tumult, the dull and indistinct sounds, to the things that were said. "It is cavalry," or "those are the caissons galloping," to the trumpets, the drums, the firing, and above all to that lamentable alarm peal from St. Mary. They waited for the first cannon shot. Men sprang up at the corners of the streets and disappeared, shouting, "Go home," and people made haste to bolt their doors. They said, "How will all this end?" From moment to moment, in proportion as the darkness descended, Paris seemed to take on a more mournful hue from the formidable flaming of the revolt. Thank you for joining Bite at a Time Books today, while we read a bite of one of your favorite classics. Again, my name is Bree Carlile, and I hope you come back tomorrow for the next bite of Les Miserables. Don't forget, you can sign up for our newsletter at biteatatimebooks.com. And while you're there, check out our t-shirt shop. You can look in the show notes or on our website, biteatatimebooks.com, for the rest of the links for our show. We'd love to hear from you on social media. You can find us everywhere at Bite at a Time Books.